The world loves the underdog, stories of triumph against all odds, or where people rise up from rags to riches. And in this video, we're talking about just those kind of stories. Hey, I'm Adam-Wilber. Let's jump right into the 10 craziest success stories of all time. Number 10, Sarah Jessica Parker. Parker is the fourth child of 8, and after her parents divorced when she was very young, she lived with her mother and her stepfather. Parker wanted to help her family and started singing and dancing in the theater to help out with financial battles, only at the age of 9. Her family was completely on board with her career, and they moved to New Jersey when she was only 11 so she could pursue a role in a Broadway production called The Innocents in 1976. Soon after, she performed in The Sound of Music alongside 4 of her siblings. This gained her a scholarship to the New York Professional Children's School. In 1979, she landed her first film role in the movie Rich Kids, which spawned a constant line of work until the early 90s. It wasn't until 1998, however, that Parker earned the role of Carrie in the still popular Sex and the City that she was truly the hit she is today. The show ran for 6 seasons and now has 2 movie sequels. Her net worth is estimated to be around $100 million today. Number 9 is Tyler Perry. Perry had a very traumatic childhood. Coming from poverty, he was physically and sexually abused growing up. He was kicked out of school, and he attempted suicide during his early teens and again in early adulthood. Tyler learned to write down his thoughts and things he learned from his experiences. Advice he extracted from Oprah Winfrey, which he later used as a muse to write his first screenplay, titled I Know I've Been Changed back in 1992. He put all of his money into this production only for the theater to be empty, although years later he would have a full house for that very same play. Tyler wrote 13 plays over the next 13 years, and in 2005 he made the leap to the big screen. In 2006, Perry had his first book published named Don't Make a Black Woman Take Off Her Earrings, Medea's commentary on life and love. It was a New York Times bestseller for 8 weeks running. In 2007, Tyler broadened his resume with a jump to television and his own production company called TPS, Tyler Perry Studios. His net worth sits around approximately $600 million today. Number 8 is Shania Twain. Twain was born in Ontario in 1965. She was the eldest of 4, and her parents divorced when she was very young. Her mother remarried a while later to Jerry Twain, who adopted the kids as his own. Twain's family wasn't wealthy, and she often had what was described as a poor man's lunch, just a plain buttered sandwich or maybe a sandwich with mayonnaise and nothing else. Along with watching her stepfather violently attack her mother, she started singing in bars, having hopes to give her family a better life. Singing wasn't making enough, so when she was old enough, she took a job at McDonald's. When Twain was a young adult at 21 years old, her mother and stepfather tragically passed in a head-on collision with a truck. Twain then put her career on hold to raise her 3 younger siblings who were only in their teens. She began singing in the resorts to support her siblings and put off moving away to pursue her career until her youngest brother had graduated high school. After this, she decided to move to Nashville and to pursue her singing career. Soon after, with the help of co-writer Robert Lang, she shot to stardom with the release of her second album, The Woman in Me. Her net worth is estimated to be around $400 million. Number 7 is Arnold Schwarzenegger. Schwarzenegger was born in Austria. His father was a police chief and his mother was a homemaker. He grew up in a brick house that had no plumbing, shower, or even working toilets. His family walked a quarter of a mile to the nearest water supply, while all taking showers with the same water. Growing up in poverty in the midst of the Cold War, Schwarzenegger was often beaten by his father as discipline. The discipline at school was no different. Schwarzenegger growing up always knew he wanted to come to America, and after being impressed by the movie Hercules and the Captive Woman, he also wanted to become a strong and muscular man. He was so determined to be Mr. Austria, he disappeared during his mandatory 1-year military stint in Austria to complete the Junior Mr. Europe contest. Although he won, upon return to his stint, he was put in detention, eventually being granted an early discharge, also eventually winning Mr. Universe 2 years running. Schwarzenegger then turned his sights to acting, starring first in Hercules in New York in 1969, while his breakthrough role may have been Conan the Barbarian. His astronomical rise to fame came in the Terminator franchise. Hundreds of movies later, old Arnie, who also enjoyed a stint as California's governor, the former Mr. Universe, is now worth an estimated $400 million. Number 6 is Drew Barrymore. While Drew Barrymore had an early start to stardom, being featured in E.T. in 1982 at age 6, she had many early obstacles on the way. Drew started drinking and smoking at age 9, and in the following years went on to abuse marijuana, then cocaine. At age 12, she was institutionalized for suicide attempts, and by 13, she already had 2 stays in a rehab center. After rehab at 14 years old, Drew emancipated from her parents and began to flourish as her own person. By her late teens, Drew was back on a sober road to success. At 19, in 1993, she posed nude on the cover of Interview magazine and also for Playboy magazine. In the next few years, Drew starred in many popular roles, going on to start her own production company with Nancy Juvier, even producing her own films including Never Been Kissed. Drew is rumored to be worth an estimated $125 million. Number 5 is Russell Brand. And to break script for a minute, Russell Brand has been a very influential figure in my life. He's also an addict and alcoholic. I've been struggling with alcohol my entire life, and I'm now sober for over 4 years. Russell Brand has just written a book called Recovery, and it's a book that I recommend to anybody struggling with addiction or alcoholism. There's some great content in there, but the main thing to remember is that you're not alone. You're not facing a battle that people haven't been through before and come out the other side in a much better light. So if you're struggling with drugs or alcohol, please do pick up Russell Brand's book Recovery, or pick up the phone and speak to somebody. Just know you're not alone. Alright, back to the video. Russell Brand was born into a toxic relationship. His father divorced his mother when he was just 6 months old, leaving his mother to raise a child with ADD and bipolar disorder on her own. At age 7, he was molested. At 8, his mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. Later in life, Brand turned to drugs, self-harm, and bulimia as a coping mechanism for his tumultuous childhood. Brand went on to use these struggles as a baseline for his stand-up comedy acts, and almost instant success. He was able to leverage his popularity to gain him roles as a comedic actor, landing roles including Forgetting Sarah Marshall and Get Him to the Greek. Now sober and working as a voice actor and comedian, Brand is also a best-selling author worth around $15 million. Number 4 is Jim Carrey. At 14, Carrey's father lost his job and his family moved to Canada in a van on a relative's lawn. He was living with dyslexia and wrangling to help his mother battle with her depression. He took an 8-hour-a-day job after school at a factory to help his family with finances. At 15, Carrey took his first stab at performing comedy routines on stage. It didn't go well, but this didn't stop him. At 16, he quit school to focus on comedy full-time. He moved to LA, broke and restless. He would park on Mulholland Drive each evening and envision what he wanted for himself in his comedy career. He then wrote himself a check for $10 million, dated 1995, and he kept it in his wallet. Manifesting what he wanted for himself, he began performing opening acts for well-known comedians. Then just 3 years later, in 1995, he received his planned $10 million performance in Dumb and Dumber, starring in many, many films, including Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, Liar Liar, and Bruce Almighty. Carrey's staggering takeover of the comedy industry from humble beginnings is truly astonishing. Number 3 is Stephen King. After King's father left for a packet of cigarettes and never returned, his mother struggled to look after Stephen and his older brother David King, even whilst working 3 jobs at a time. King always wanted to become a writer, and his older brother had a newspaper entitled David's Rag, where King was able to contribute articles. He got a job as a part-time grave digger, and during this time, he came up with the idea for his book, I Was a Teenage Grave Robber, the story of a boy who takes a job digging up bodies for a crazy old scientist. While he was not paid, after over 60 rejection letters, he was finally published. He took a job at the university library and wrote articles for the student newspaper, but writing was no help to supplement the $5 a week his mother sent him, which he later found out often meant she couldn't afford to eat. As he took out his frustrations from his constant rejections by drinking and smoking cigarettes at a local bar, he began writing a story about a teenage girl with supernatural powers. Despite initially throwing it out, his wife convinced him to finish it and hand it in. Sometime later, as he couldn't afford a telephone, he received a telegram stating Doubleday Publishing were going to publish Carrey and pay him for it in advance of $2,500. Doubleday then went on to sell the paperback rights to Carrey for $400,000, to which he wasn't even entitled half. King has now published over 50 books and has sold about 400 million copies worldwide. Number 2 is J.K. Rowling. Rowling had just come up with the idea for Harry Potter on a delayed train ride before learning of a tragic passing of her mother in 1990. She went on to teach English at a school in Portugal and got married to a TV journalist, and a year later gave birth to their daughter Jessica. Separating a year later, Rowling found herself on government assistance, barely able to support her daughter. The following following year, after writing whatever she could, Rowling finished her first book, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Although she couldn't afford a computer, she manually typed out her book and over again sent it to publishers where it was shut down repeatedly. Eventually, one publisher, Bloomsbury in London, gave it a chance when the CEO's daughter fell in love with the story. Once published, Harry Potter was an instant success. The book series and its many movie spin-offs are said to have earned over $20 billion, breaking records across the globe. Number 1 is Oprah Winfrey. As a child, Oprah Winfrey sometimes had to wear potato sacks as her family couldn't always afford clothing. She was passed around the family by her single teen mother whilst looking for work. From the age of 9, Oprah was abused right until she left the family home. It wasn't until age 14, where she went to live with her father in Tennessee, that her life began to improve. During high school, she found her passion for media and began working at a local radio station, which landed her a scholarship to university. She soon left university to pursue her career in media, becoming the first black female news anchor at 19 years old, and then co-anchor in Baltimore. However, in that position, she unfortunately suffered more sexual abuse and was unjustly fired from her co-anchor position because of it. She didn't let this stop her and went on to become the host of AM Chicago, where the ratings quickly went from very low to absurdly high. It was from there that she was able to negotiate for her own show, The Oprah Winfrey Show, which ran for 25 seasons and continued on with an agreement for her own production company. That production company went on to produce other popular shows, such as The Rachel Ray Show and The Dr. Phil Show. Now at age 61, Oprah is said to have a net worth of well over $2 billion. So that's it, the list of 10 of the craziest success stories of all time. Do you have a favorite one? Are there some that I might have left out? I'd love to hear. And once again, thanks so much for trusting me with some of your time. We're going to be posting videos every Tuesday and Saturday. My whole goal is to help spark something creative inside of you. Thanks again for being here. Until next time, my friends, onward.